Shalom, shalom, shalom. Giving honor and praise to the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yisrael of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. Brothers and sisters, we want to do a particular brief teaching, and this is concerning the 12-tribe chart that has been circulating. One of the things to point out is two things, actually, to point out. And that is this teaching coming from myself. Blessed be the Most High. I am not a believer in the 12-tribe chart that has been circulating for some decades. However, the reasons why some others disagree with the 12-tribe chart is not based upon scriptural reference. And we're going to show that. Let's go to Isaiah, if we will. Isaiah chapter 11, verse 11. And it says this: "And it shall be on that day, the Lord will once again show his hand to acquire the remnant of his people who will have remained from Assyria, from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. He will raise up a banner for the nations and assemble the castaways of Israel, and he will gather the dispersed ones of Judah from the four corners of the earth." One of the things to point out is when they go to Isaiah chapter 11, verse 12, they are saying in many cases that Judah is the one that was scattered abroad or cast out and so forth, and that it was only one of the 12 tribes that was put into captivity. That in actuality is incorrect. All right, so we just want that to be noted for edification purposes. We have to let it be known and understood what is the distinction and the difference between the aspect of a tribe and the aspect of a kingdom. Many cases in the scriptures, when it speaks about the kingdom of Judah, it just simply mentions Judah. All right, but within this kingdom of Judah, we want it to be noted for edification purposes, included many Levites, included the tribe of Benjamin, as well as included the tribe of Simeon, which is another controversial matter that we want to address in this regard. Now, let's remember what we read in the book of Isaiah, right? And now let's go to Ezekiel, if we will. Ezekiel chapter 16. All right, we are in Ezekiel chapter 16, and we are going to start in verse 11. Pardon me. Sorry about that. We in Ezekiel 11, verse 16. I stand corrected. Ezekiel 11:16, and it says the following. All right. "Therefore say, thus saith the Lord God, though I have removed them far from among the nations, and though I have scattered them among the lands, yet have I been for them a small sanctuary in the lands where they have arrived. Therefore say, thus saith the Lord God, I will assemble you from the nations and gather you from the lands where you have been scattered and give you the land of Israel." All right, so Ezekiel chapter 11, verse 17 speaks about assembling and gathering the people, and that is talking about the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. So if we already see that assemble and gathering is actually synonymous in meaning, all right, when it says assemble yourselves together or gather yourselves together, one case in the book of Exodus, another case in the book of Genesis, is basically talking about coming together or bringing the people together to be one. So this is something we want to point out. Therefore, it's impossible to attempt to teach that the tribe of Judah only was scattered off into the western hemisphere and the other tribes are in the east. That doesn't hold weight when you get right down into it. Scripturally, it does not. Now, I want to go, brothers and sisters, real quick, all right? Let's go in the book of Joshua, if we will, to get into Israelite history to a great extent. Joshua chapter 19, verse 1, all right? So we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about in this particular regard. And it says this, so that way we can gain some understanding, all right? Joshua chapter 19, verse 1 says this: "The second lot came out for Simeon, for the tribe of his descendants by their clans, but their inheritance was within the portion of Judah's descendants." So Joshua chapter 19 verse 1 shows us what? That within the portion of the land of Judah was where Simeon was, where you see my thumb is. All right? So right over, for edification purposes, you see Judah here, right? And then you see Simeon right there within it. So now when we start talking about the tribes of Israel being scattered first into Assyria, then later on into Babylon, we have to know and understand the history of what we're talking about in that particular regard. Because when people are attempting to state that it was only the tribe of Judah, not necessarily even speaking of the kingdom of Judah, but just saying the tribe of Judah only was scattered over here to the west and that the other tribes are still in the east, that's factually incorrect. We have to remember that the book of Kings, 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 17, to cite the scriptures, it says in there emphatically what? That there were people of the Israelites that will be of the northern kingdom that lived in the southern kingdom of Judah. So once again, that's 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 17. Then you have the aspect in which you had Judah that was taken into the Assyrian captivity when Hezekiah was ruling, when you go into 2 Kings chapter 18. All right. So now when you go in Lamentations, which speaks about, written by Jeremiah, about the captivity in Babylon, it says the Most High has swallowed up Israel in Lamentations chapter 2. So here's the point of what I want to point out in this particular regard. In the southern kingdom of Judah, even after the death of Solomon, you had Israelites of the northern tribes that lived in that part in Judah. All right. Then we read about the situation with Tiglath-Pileser. All right. And then later on, Sargon taking the credit in Assyrian records concerning taking the tribes of the northern kingdom of Israel into the Assyrian captivity. All right. But then a little more than 20 or so years later, after that, in 701 BCE, you had it to where Judah, mainly coming out of the land of Lachish, for instance, that was taken into the land of Assyria as captives. So that means while Assyria was still in their heyday, you had Israelites from both Judah, the tribe and kingdom, and Israelites from the northern kingdom within the captivity under the Assyrians. So now when Assyria then, unfortunately for some, fortunately for others, lost to the Babylonians, you had many Israelites that winded up migrating into the Babylonian captivity or the Babylonian lands. Now, Babylon defeated Assyria in 609 BCE. Now, Judah was taken in captivity 597 BCE. Now, when I say Judah was taken in captivity, I'm talking about the southern kingdom, because you read about that in the book of 2 Kings 24 under Jehoiachin, king of Judah. And then 11 years later, Zedekiah in 586 BCE was taken into captivity by the same king Nebuchadnezzar. So these are things that we pointed out, that you had Israelites in the northern kingdom, Judah in the northern kingdom, as well as Israel in the southern kingdom. Judah in the Syrian captivity and Israelites of the northern kingdom inside the Babylonian captivity. So you can't sit there and then try to say scripturally or historically that, well, the people just basically, it was only Judah that went to Babylon, and then the northern tribes went to Assyria, and so forth and so on, because you got to remember that the tribes already migrated within themselves, even from the Ancient of Days. So these are certain things we want to point out, as stated in the Hebrew classes in Shema. There's nothing that's being stated that is not important. Every scriptural reference, check it out for yourself. All right, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. Now, once again, I want to show for edification purposes, brothers and sisters, this particular map that we went over, to sit there and let it be shown and seen that you had Simeon within the land of Judah, as mentioned in Joshua chapter 19. So now when Judah goes into captivity, which is east of the land of Israel, all right, where happened to this particular people right here? This is something we want to talk about for edification purposes. All right, you have Dan here, Ephraim here, West Manasseh and East Manasseh, Naphtali and Asher. So these are things you just want to point out for reason and purposes. Now, brothers and sisters, I like to sit there and for, as stated, edification purposes, if we will, all right, I like to go into a book, if I may, if I have. Yes, I do. Thank you for the patience. In this book here, the Apocrypha, let's go into the book of Toby, if we will. Not Toby 4:12. Oh, blast it. I thought you was going to talk about the white woman. No, they don't get no play in this particular one. We're going to talk about the book of Tobit, chapter 1, verse 1. The book of the words of Tobit, son of Tabiel, the son of Ananiel, the son of Aduel, the son of Gabael, the son of the seed of Asael of the tribe of Naphtali, who in the time of Manasseh, king of the Assyrians, was led captive out of Tishbe, which is at the right hand of that city, which is called properly Naphtali in Galilee above Asher. So what are we dealing with in that particular regard? You had it, the book of Toby gives you a geography of where the people of Toby came from and the name of the tribe, which was Naphtali. So it's talking about when they was in when they was in the land of the Assyrians under the captivity. All right, as stated, Assyria lost to the Babylonians, and then the Babylonians then lost to the Medes and the Persians. All right, so now taking that into understanding, by the time you read about Daniel, right, you have it to where the Babylonians began to lose to the Medes and the Persians during the era of that. So now after the time of Daniel, you had Ezra. Now this is something I want to point out concerning the book of Ezra, if we will, concerning the diaspora to a great extent, if we will. All right, let's go to Ezra chapter 3. All right, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about in this particular regard. All right, the book of Ezra, chapter 3, and we're going to start, brothers and sisters, in verse 1. All right, and it says this: by the 7th month, the Israelites had settled in their towns, and the people gathered together in Jerusalem. Now, this may read from the average King James Version, but what it's stating is that the children of Israel were settled in their land during the time of Ezra. Now, that may have not been each and every single person that was there, you understand? But Israelites of all the 12 tribes were still represented inside of the land at that time. This is why centuries later on, when the Greeks and then later on the Romans was sitting up there and attacking the Israelites, you had, not to jump the gun in this particular presentation, Vespasian, attacking Guatemala, Jotapata, and so forth and so on, because Jericho and so forth and so on, because those are Israelites that were still in the northern lands. So these are things we just want to point out for edification purposes. Now, no insult intended. It is a very poor and sloppy teaching, no disrespect intended toward the 12 tribes taught, but that's a poor understanding of the scattering of the tribes of Israel. All right, because we have to go line upon line, precept upon precept. And remember, Deuteronomy already said, Deuteronomy 28, verse 64, that the Most High will scatter Israel from one end of the earth to the other. So one cannot then say that this particular island must be all Simeon. This particular place, the Isthmus of Mexico, must be the people that you talk about of Issachar, and Puerto Ricans must be Ephraim, and the North American Negro and Canadian black man and woman and child must be the tribe of Judah. Because you had it to where Israel, as stated, was scattered from one end of the earth unto the other. Essentially, and I say this in no disrespect intended, the 12 tribe chart doesn't hold any weight. It's not necessary to even have such, because the Most High in Jeremiah, it says, he who scattered Israel will gather Israel. I want to state that again. It says, he who scattered Israel will gather Israel. So it's not going to come from any particular school. It's going to come from the work of the Most High himself. So this is something we just want to point out for reason and purposes and for edification understanding. Now, let's go, brothers and sisters, in closing out this particular part. I want to advertise this in the video. Old Testament Hebrews respond, why are there non-messianics? This book right here is due because there are many people who attempted to try to sit there and speak against us, as they called us non-messianics. I've asked for several years or so, where did the term messianic come from? Or the messianic age? How do you say messianic in Hebrew? Is the term even in the Bible? When you ask these questions, I've noticed, because I've asked this before on this same channel, where did the term messianic come from? And somebody in the comments started talking about the New Testament has a prophecy that only works every 7,000 years. That's not the answer to the question. See, as a person who, not to be haughty, that studies, you have to stay focused. So when you're doing a presentation, you're going to stay focused. If I'm asking a question, I'm not going to allow myself to be deviated into something else. I'm not asking about any prophecy. I'm asking about terminology. Where did the term messianic come from? Don't ask me a question and expect me to have to jump into your question format when you're not answering my question, which had you want to ask the question in the first place. You heard my question and then didn't address my question, but asked me a question. So now that means that you're trying to take control of the conversation and control of the debate. That's not happening with Kashub the Danite. So this is just something we want to point this out for edification purposes. This is available online. Then we have this one here. Egypt Talking Writing. Did the Torah come from the culture of Tameri? All right. This too is also available online. It gets into the Exodus, gets into the Egyptian papyri. It gets into Isaiah chapter 19, 25, and so forth. All right, then, sorry about the back cover shown. This book right here, which I consider my Babylon and Timbuktu version, all right, is Deuteronomy 28, 15 to 68, The Condition of the Blacks, which gets into history, geography, and so forth. And it also talks about the controversial matter of the children of Esau, as well as the tribe of Dan. All right, so these are things you just want to point out for reason and purposes. And with that, giving glory and honor to Yah, shalom.